Okie dokie. Let's get started. So hi, everybody. My name is Alex Solomon. I'm the Communications and Outreach Coordinator for the Santa Lucia Conservancy. Thank you for joining us tonight for a presentation on the power of wildlife photography, Luciane Coletti. Please keep your audio muted during the presentation. There will be time for questions at the end, and please feel free to drop your questions in the chat as they come up for you. Conservation photography is an emerging field that aims to use images to bring awareness to conservation issues. On the Santa Lucia Preserve, the Conservancy's Where the Wildlife Wander project collected thousands of images that shed light on where animals cross paths, where they live, and how they coexist with preserve residents. If you're unfamiliar with the Santa Lucia Conservancy, we are a nonprofit that adaptively manages approximately 18,000 acres of the 20,000 acre Santa Lucia Preserve to increase wildfire and climate resilience, reduce invasive species, maintain diverse habitats for a range of wildlife, and advance the practice of land conservation throughout California. Now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker this evening. Luciane Coletti is a conservation photographer with extensive experience working in wildlife conservation from coastal California to the rainforests of Brazil. Her mission is to involve more people in conservation through visual storytelling, inspiring them to take action to conserve the natural environment. She spent about a year and a half volunteering with the Conservancy to capture photos using high-quality trail cameras, and we're honored to have her join us tonight. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Luciane.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here with you. Thank you for joining. I'm now sharing screen with you and start presenting. A second. Here we go. Can you see it? Yes? Okay, good. So tonight I'm going to talk about the portraits that I took from the wildlife in the Santa Lucia Preserve. My name is Luciane Coletti. And so start off, I think some of you have already seen this photo before. Heard is a big hit on the Christmas card. This is a photo that I took last year of a bobcat. This is in Long Ridge, not very far from the trail in the chaparral environment out there. So this is an example of the kind of pictures that I'll be presenting for you tonight. And this is just right here in the preserve where you live. So one of my favorite photos as well. So just to give a quick introduction about myself. So I am a wildlife biologist. I volunteered before with the Conservancy for about a year and a half, many years ago. Several projects I was helping with Chrissy Wyckoff, and one of them was Where the Wildlife Wander. And I'm sure that most of you are familiar with the project. Some of you probably participated as citizen scientists. And so it's a very nice project that showed how the animals are used in the preserve, where they are, where they live. And so my objective afterwards was coming back and taking photos of the animals, but in a more like professional way to show like their details, to show their images in a better quality and more intimate way than the images that you can get from the other cameras in the preserve. So about 2 years ago, I started working mostly with outreach and communication. And the main reason was because I saw that a lot of the research and important conservation issues, they were very difficult for people to grasp because they were very written in a scientific way, a lot of numbers, a lot of graphics, but not really being very easily to understand to people. So the photography, the visuals, the visual stories are ways to try to have outreach and communication that's easily understandable so more people can know about it and understand better and get involved. So this is what is conservation photography. And so the main objectives of conservation photography, so it's environmental awareness about conservation issues, environmental education. It's really good for kids, because you have the images, you have the videos, you have something that is very interactive and grabbing your attention. And also the main objective is to gather community support. So to support these conservation initiatives so people can understand why these environments are important, how people can actually get benefit from it, and also how wildlife can benefit of all of it. And I mostly work with conservation organizations and researchers to try to translate it visually and telling visual stories about it. So, as people say that image is worth 1,000 words, and it's even better if you can get an image and 1,000 words, and then you can engage visually and understand more about all of it. So here's another image as another example of an image that I got from the preserve. This is an adult bobcat in the same area. This is a chaparral area, and you can see, there's another important thing is that through the visuals, why photography is because you can actually get up and close to these animals that usually you're not going to have an opportunity. Sometimes you can get a glimpse of them. Sometimes you can have, maybe you're lucky to observe them for a little bit, but it's usually difficult and they are scared of you and shy. And so with this kind of photography, you can get up close and look at some details that are not possible. Like, for example, you can look at the paws, you can look at the fur, you can actually look them in the eyes, like look your eyes into their eyes. And this emotional connection is very important because when you have this emotional connection, you actually want to do something about it, right? Like you only want to conserve what you really love and you understand and is important for you. And so another nice aspect of it is that you can also see the environment. Like, for example, in the background, you can see the mountains that you probably are familiar with, and you can see how well preserved they are. And you can see the environment where this animal lives and understand that this is the environment that provides what they have to thrive in the preserve. So here's another example. This one is a juvenile, and you can see even better the background where they live. And what was really nice about this photo is also that you show like several different stages. You have the kittens, you have the juveniles and adults, and you can see that they are actually reproducing in this environment. And so this is really nice, good information to have and to see how much they are thriving on it. So how does it work? I think that most of you are very familiar with this equipment. Probably some of you have even put in your backyard before, so you know how it works. You have the equipment that has the camera, the flash, and the sensor all in this one box that was used for the Wildlife Wonder project. And if not, you have crossed by it in the preserve, I'm sure, at some point. And it's a very nice equipment for research. You can get a lot of data. You can see what animals are doing, where they are going. But the main purpose is research. And so what I use is different because the main purpose is really to get some really good quality images of the animals, but it works in a very similar kind of way. So just to show you how that worked in the preserve, like I talked with Dr. Christie, and with the results of the Wildlife Wonder, you kind of have an idea where the animals cross mostly, where they kind of are in general. But I need very precise information of exactly where they will be. Like in this example, you have here like some footprints. And so I knew, okay, they are using this area right now for water. And so I know where the animals will be likely to be, of course. Then I have to get the composition to show like not only the animal, but the behavior that they're doing and the environment where they are. And so I have to try to find a good angle to try to show all of it. And then here is the kind of equipment that I use. This box here has the camera inside, so they're separate. A camera that can get very good quality images. And then you have separately the sensor. And why is it separate? Is because I want to know exactly where the animal will be crossing, and the camera will take the picture, because that's the way that I know how the composition is going to look like. So if the animal is coming that way, I know how it's going to look like in the camera and how the photo will look like. Of course, this is if they do it. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they go somewhere else. But that's the hope, and we just wait to see what's going to happen. And then you have also the flashes, they are separate because I want very good lighting. And so it's kind of like setting a photography studio in the wild, and the animals are the models, you know? And so just to show you an example of how one of the places that I've done that in the preserve. So here you have the sensor, here you have the flash, and here you have the camera. And I know it's a little bit difficult to see, but it's part of the deal because I want it to be concealed and have camouflage, so the animals cannot actually see it so well, and they don't get scared, because I want them to cross by it and have the most natural kind of behavior they can possibly have. I want them to like not get scared by it, but actually feel it's kind of part of the environment. They may get, you know, a little curious, a little look twice, but if they keep doing what they were doing and just cross by the place, it means that I did the least amount of impact possible, which is the objective of it. So here's another example. It's kind of hard to see, but here's the camera, sensor. And I was hoping they would cross through the trunk, and then I could get pictures of them crossing. This is the Williams Canyon area. Maybe some of you have seen this camera over there. And here's my lovely husband showing how you do that. You cross by it and you see if the animal comes, if everything will gonna work fine. Like the camera will gonna work, the flashes are gonna work, everything will look nice, and you just put it there and you hope that they're gonna come and wait for it. In this case, we had the fox coming. Here you can see the fox in mid of a jump, and the fox came in to cross the trunk. And it was very nice showing that the animals actually are crossing the trunk. And actually very often, this fox was coming very often to cross back and forth. And here you can see sometimes the animals get really curious about it. So this fox was coming to like investigate the equipment and look for it and try to see what's going on. But the nice thing about it is that it kept crossing anyway. So I knew that even though they were curious about it, they were not really being that affected by the equipment. And here is a picture of a mountain lion. I put in the Williams Canyon area because I was hoping to get a photo of a mountain lion. It's an area that several pictures have shown about of them going about. But of course, they're not always there. And sometimes you have to wait months for it to happen. And unfortunately, that happened was going the other way around. So I got a really nice butt shot of the mountain lion, unfortunately. But, you know, I saw, well, they are actually crossing and they're also using the trunk, which is very interesting behavior. And some of you may be wondering, wow, why didn't you turn around with the camera then? Unfortunately, this is not how it works. I talked with several other photographers that use the same method. And for whatever reason, it will gonna happen anyway, the other way around. You always get more butt shots than you hope for, but you know, you just wait and see what's gonna happen. And so I kept trying and actually got a shot of a mountain lion. That's the same similar area up in the trail. And what I've done in this case is here is a scrap. So like there was some marking, And so they were using it for communication. So that's how I knew, well, eventually someone will come here to smell it. And so that's how I got the shot. And it's really interesting that here you can see actually the behavior of the animal actually smelling it and using it for communication. And then I finally got a nice shot of the mountain lion that I was hoping for a while. And I don't know about you guys, but as a volunteer for the preserve, I walk up and down the trails a lot, and I've never seen a mountain lion. So this is really nice using this kind of method and this kind of photography, because then you can finally see the animals that you otherwise you never had the opportunity to see. And having this nice intimate portrait too, as you can actually see their face, you can see their looking into your eyes, which is something that I only hope we're ever going to happen, probably not, but it's interesting. So you can get to know more about them, and you can get to know, like, for you, who are your neighbors in the end. And here is another individual coming to smell at the same place, so showing how they are communicating through this marking. Again, smelling around. A very nice, beautiful animal as well, using the same area. And other species also use the same trails. Here showing some other examples. Here's me. I also try out. It's not just my husband going and trying it. This is up in the trail, and I was very lucky to get one more portrait of an individual up there, which was very special as well. And here, just to show that, like, not always everything works well. Here the flash didn't work. Sometimes the equipment doesn't work. Sometimes the animals don't show up. Sometimes you have to work for a long time. But in general, I think this is a very nice method to try to get some very nice intimate portraits of the animals. In this case, here is a trunk much smaller and crossing a creek, and also like the small animals are using it to go up and down. This is in the Redwood Grove area. And here's a photo of another bobcat. So talking with Dr. Christie, I asked her, like, what would be some interesting photos that we can use for the Conservancy. And she was talking about how important are the water holes and the water places that still have water during the summer, because so many of the streams dry out. In this specific case, I saw this bobcat using a lot this area for water. Then I put my equipment out there. And so we wanted to see who were the animals that were using this area. This is in the Potrero area, so just in the side of the trail. And we actually could see that a lot of animals are actually using this source of water, which was very interesting. See a turkey as well. Another bobcat. Decided to get up and close. And here, an opossum. So it's another interesting thing that you can use, like, to show how important are some resources, in this case, the water, on how much some places that have water are for the wildlife. And so in general, the photos can be used for many different ways. You can show the importance of certain habitats, the importance of certain resources, and I think most of all to show specifically in the preserve how the animals are actually using the area and how important it is to conserve this habitat for them to keep thriving on it as they are. And so that's the way they have so much diversity. And I hope you enjoy seeing your neighbors. So, you know, the preserve is one amazing place for you to live, and also an amazing place for all these animals, and full of the important resources that they need to thrive. So I hope you enjoy seeing all of it. And if you want, this is my website. If you want to have more information about more of my photos, if you want to send me a message or, just take a look. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, seeing all these photos of the animals out there. And I'm open for any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Luciane. I think the first question we have is from Rich Griffith. And he said, are there any boar sightings that you've captured on the preserve?
Not actually, which is very interesting. I haven't had any sightings of boars at all.
Wow, that's kind of impressive.
Yeah.
Also, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask questions. You don't have to necessarily put them in the chat unless you want to.
Where is the best place to buy this kind of equipment? Because we just have the basic, cameras that were used a couple of years ago for our program.
Mm-hmm. Quite kind of equipment you mean for more this kind of photography?
Yes, like the flash and the sensor and
so specifically I use two different brands for the sensors. This one is called Coexist and the other one is called Contraptions. But for the flashes, I use just normal professional flashes. And the camera as well is just a normal, more professional camera. So it's really the sensors that you need to look for. These two brands are the brands that I use. You can buy them online.
Can you share the links with me and then
Yeah.
I'll share with the registrants? Okay, awesome. And then Cheryl's wondering what kind of DSLR you're using as well.
Yeah, it's a Canon 70.
On the preserve, which trails have you set up cameras on?
That's a good question. The specific name of the trails, I do not recall, but I set up in a very different places. As I said, one of them is close to the Long Reach Trail. I usually don't set in the trails, just to be very specific. I put kind of close to the trails, but not in the trails, because usually I want to camouflage it better, the equipment. So none of my cameras were specifically in the trail, but they were very close to the trails. So one of them was close to Long Ridge. One of them was in the side of Potrero Trail. Another one was close to Williams Canyon. Another one was in the Redwood Grove, but not close to any trail, was just down on the stream, close to the picnic tables. And I also put, where else? Yeah, that's the ones that I remember. So they were all kind of like around the area, but not specifically in the trail.
Okay. And Rich is curious, did you have any in the Garces area off of Rancho San Carlos?
I don't think I did.
And where were where were the most successful cameras? You know, the ones that got the most shots of water.
There were one in the ones in Williams Canyon and the ones at Potrero, which is kind of the results they already have seen on the where the wildlife wander. So these areas have a lot of animal activity, and that's how I chose also the areas, because I thought there was more chances of success over there as well.
Awesome. Okay. And which is your favorite animal?
That's a very difficult question. I think I like all of them, to be honest. Like, I got excited with every single one of them, even with the little squirrel. I wasn't so excited to get. So I don't think there's a very specific one, to be honest. And I'm putting the name of the equipment just in the chat so people can take a look.
Thank you very much for doing that. I'll also save that link and send it out later. So what other projects have you participated on with your wildlife photography in the conservation realm?
So I participated in other, well, the one that will be the closest one is I worked with the River Watershed Conservancy, working with them, providing some images and videos, and we created a story map for educational purposes. So education and environmental education about the Carmel River. And so this is the last one I've done with them. And now we are doing another one for next year about the Carmel River as well as the health report that they have just finished. These were the two projects that I've done in the area, in the Carmel area. And I also worked with some magazines as well, showing the work of some researchers for publications as well. So, yes.
And Jim is asking, do you photograph birds in a different way?
Yes, I do. Birds, definitely. I use mostly still some long lens, and I just sit and wait. Birds usually are not so scared if you just sit and wait for them. They usually will come by, you know. For instance, I took some pictures of the tricolors in the preserve, you know, but you can just sit still or use a blind and have your long lens and they will show up and you can take photos of them. It's different when you're working with mammals. They usually get really scared and run away from you. So definitely it's different depending what is the species that you're working with.
Awesome. Are there any other questions?
I have a question. I'm Kirsten, and I am an environmental education educator for the Santa Lucia Conservancy, and I co-created the program over the last 22 years. And your cameras and your images, we have some of the pictures hanging on our bridge in Potrero Canyon, and we walk by them, and they're sort of the highlight of our walks. The children come over the years from when they're wee little up through, you know, graduating from high school in environmental science and their parents. And one of the huge highlights of the walk is finding the bridge and looking at the camera and seeing pictures hung and seeing what's walked by. And in the virtual world over the last year and a half with COVID, we have done a lot of virtual teaching. So we've moved more into teaching with images and creating videos. And so I'm constantly searching for images of real pictures from the preserve, place-based education, rather than, you know, a bobcat in California somewhere else. I would love to connect with you and talk with you about your images and your work, because, you know, it's so important. I say that every day. A picture paints 1,000 words. Come look at these images. Look into these pictures of these animals, and why are they here? Why are they walking by here? Why is this camera put here? And the children love it. And so you've touched a lot of people, a lot of children, with your research of, just us telling what's going on is so exciting that you're getting images. So thank you so much. Your images are beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Please contact me. And
Yeah.
just to clarify, like the images that are created during this project, they are for use of the Conservancy. So if you want to use for environmental education, please feel free to use them. And I actually think it's as I said, one of the main objectives of the images is really for environmental education, because it's just so good to use with kids. It's a way for them to understand so much better what you're trying to connect and convey to them. So,
well,
yes,
and I love
absolutely.
your story map. I actually wrote into the Carmel River watershed and just gave a huge shout out of how wonderful their website is. And Alex and I have been talking about, doing something similar at the Conservancy, because you feel like you're on this virtual experience and you're there. And the combination of the images with the site map that pops up and the videos are really incredible. And right now we're actually doing a lot of the education for them at the preserve, a lot of the watershed education. So those images are, they're reaching a lot of people.
Nice. Good
Yeah.
to hear that. I'm happy to know. Do you
Okay.
have any questions?
If no one else has any thoughts or questions, we might just wrap it up a bit early here. Any other?
I have a question for you too. Have you ever gotten a glimpse of a meerkat, of the ringtail cat?
Mm-mm.
No, yeah. There's a stuffed one at the Pacific Grove Museum. And they're supposedly here, and I've heard of a few sightings of the ringtail, but I've never seen one in all of my wanderings. So wondering if you ever got an image of one.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
All right then. If there's no more questions, then we will wrap it up. Thank you again so much, Luciane.
You're welcome.
Beautiful, and we continue to use them in our communications every day. And as Kirsten mentioned.
Yeah, sorry, it's my daughter's.
Yeah, I saw that and I said it and I was like, what, Brooke? But as Kirsten mentioned, yeah, they do touch a lot of people in the Carmel Valley area. So thank you so much.
Nice. Oh, thank you very much, all of you. Thank you for coming.
And thank you all for coming. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.